Let me ask you this. What if a website's biggest secrets, I'm talking about its admin panels, its private backups, the secret folders developers use, what if all that stuff was just hiding out in the open? Completely invisible to most people, but not really hidden? Well, we're going to dive right into that, because this is a real thing that ethical hackers face every single day.
There's this really common idea in web development, and honestly, it's pretty dangerous. Developers often think, hey, if I don't link to this page, nobody's going to find it. It's safe. It's this whole concept of security through obscurity. But, and this is a big but, what we're about to see is that this assumption is basically a wide open door, just waiting for someone with the right key. And that key, well, it has a name. It's called Gobuster.
Right, so before we get into the tool itself, we really need to get a handle on what it's even looking for. I mean, we're not talking about finding a couple of forgotten images here. No, we are talking about the web's hidden doors, the secret entryways that often protect the most critical parts of a website. I mean, just stop and think for a second about what could be hiding behind these doors. Admin panels? That's full control right there. Backup files? You could be looking at old code, maybe even user data. Configuration files could have, database passwords in plain text. And those sensitive API endpoints, those are like direct lines into the application's brain. Seriously, these aren't just little mistakes. Finding one of these can be a total game over vulnerability. So the big question is, how on earth do you find doors that aren't on any map? Well, you need a keymaster. You need a tool that is built from the ground up to do one thing: knock on every single door imaginable and do it super, super fast. So let's meet our keymaster, Gobuster.
And the secret to how Gobuster works is right there in the definition. It's a brute force tool. That means it doesn't do any clever guesswork. It's more like a machine that just systematically tries every single possibility you give it from a list. And the reason it's so good at this is because it's written in Go, which makes it blindingly fast. We're talking about knocking on thousands of potential doors every single second. It's just relentless. So how does it actually think? Let's walk through it. First, you give it a huge dictionary of potential names. We call this a word list. Then, for every single word in that list, Gobuster sticks it onto the end of the target URL. For each one of these new URLs, it sends out a little request. That's the knock on the door. And then it just listens. What does the server say back? Does it say, nope, nothing here, which is a 404 error? Or does it say, yep, come on in, a 200 code? Or maybe it says, hey, you can't come in, but yeah, there's definitely something here, which is a 403 forbidden. Gobuster just reports back on every single interesting response it gets.
Now, you might think Gobuster is just a one-trick pony, but it's way more versatile than that. It actually has 3 main ways to search, and each one is designed to find a completely different kind of hidden treasure, helping an ethical hacker build out a full map of their target.
Okay, first up is the one you'll probably use the most, Dirb mode. This is the classic door knocker. It just looks for hidden folders and files on the website you're targeting. So it's trying to find stuff like, example.com/admin, or maybe an old example.com/backup.zip file that was left behind.
And here's exactly why this matters so much. Finding these things isn't just a fun little discovery. That admin path could lead straight to the login page that controls the whole site. A .back file? That could be a backup of the entire website's source code. The potential impact here is absolutely massive. A single find could be the key to a full website compromise.
All right, next up is DNS mode. This is where we zoom out a bit. Instead of looking for folders on a website, we're now looking for totally separate new websites or subdomains that are related to our target. So we're looking for things like admin.example.com or test.example.com. It's kind of like you were exploring an island and suddenly you discover a whole bunch of other secret islands right next to it that weren't on any map.
So why are these subdomains such a gold mine? Well, it's simple. They're often forgotten. That dev or test subdomain, it might be running ancient, super vulnerable software that the main public-facing site would never, ever use. The security on them is usually way weaker because, hey, they weren't supposed to be for public eyes. A staggering number of really high-severity bugs are found on these forgotten little corners of the internet.
And that brings us to the third mode, vhost, which is a little more advanced. So here's the deal. Sometimes a whole bunch of different websites all live on the exact same server, sharing one IP address. The best way to think about it is like an apartment building. Vhost mode is the tool that lets you find the names of all the other apartments in that building, especially the ones that aren't listed on the main directory downstairs.
And this is where you can find the real crown jewels. We're talking internal dashboards, staging environments that developers use. These systems are almost always set up to be way less strict. Sometimes they even bypass the normal login process entirely because, again, they were only meant for internal eyes. Finding one of these is like discovering a secret back entrance to the whole company.
Okay, so now you know the different modes, but just knowing them isn't enough. Using a tool like this effectively is really an art form. A pro doesn't just hit go and hope for the best. No, they master their search. They're like a craftsman, carefully selecting their tools and fine-tuning their approach for the job at hand.
And a huge part of that comes down to one simple fact. Gobuster is only as good as its word list. It's really that simple. It can't possibly find a folder called Secret Admin Panel if the words Secret Admin Panel aren't in the list of things it's supposed to try. The word list is its dictionary of guesses. A tiny one might just have admin and login. A massive one could have millions of entries. Choosing the right one for the job isn't luck. It's a critical skill.
And this right here shows you the trade-off you're always making. You grab a small word list, you're going to get results fast, maybe in seconds, but it's a pretty shallow scan. On the other hand, you use a massive word list, yeah, it's going to be slow. It could take hours, but you are doing a deep dive. So you have to ask yourself, am I just doing a quick look-see, or am I performing a full-on deep assessment? Your answer to that question tells you which word list to pick.
But that's not the only trade-off. There's also speed versus stealth. See, you can tell Gobuster to use more threads. Think of it like sending more people to knock on doors all at the same time. If you use 100 threads, it's super fast, but it's also really, really noisy. Any decent security system is going to see that massive flood of requests and sound the alarm. But if you use, say, 10 threads, it's much slower, but you're acting more like a quiet scout. It's much harder to detect. So a good ethical hacker is always balancing that need for speed against the risk of getting spotted, or even worse, accidentally crashing the server with too many requests.
And there are other ways to really master your search. You can use flags to fine-tune everything. For example, the -x flag lets you hunt for specific file extensions. So if you're looking for backups, you can tell it to only look for .zip or .back files. The -s flag is great for focusing on what matters. It tells Gobuster, hey, only show me the interesting stuff, like a 200 or a 403. And the -b flag does the opposite. It cuts out all the useless noise, like hiding the thousands of 404 not found errors. A real pro uses these to get a super clean, focused list of results.
Okay, we've spent all this time talking about how powerful this tool is. But you know this saying, with great power comes great responsibility. And that brings us to what is, without a doubt, the single most important part of this entire discussion, the ethical hacker's code.
You know, beginners make a lot of common mistakes. They'll use the wrong word list, or they'll see a 403 forbidden error and just ignore it. A pro knows that a forbidden message is actually a good thing. It means you found something, even if you can't access it. But the absolute biggest mistake, the one you can never, ever make, is scanning without permission. That right there is the line. It's what separates a security researcher from a criminal.
Let me be 100% clear on this so there's no confusion. Using a tool like Gobuster on any system that you do not have explicit written permission to test is not some kind of gray area. It's illegal, full stop. And it can land you in very serious legal trouble. So the question is, when can you use it legally and ethically? The rules are actually very simple. Number 1, on systems you personally own. Go nuts. Number 2, on systems where you have explicit written permission to test, like for a client who hired you. And number 3, inside controlled, safe lab environments built for this, like TryHackMe or HackTheBox. That's it. There are no other options. At the end of the day, remember this. Gobuster is just a tool. It's a really powerful key, for sure, one that can find all sorts of hidden doors across the web. But just finding a door, that's the easy part. What you do next, whether you try to kick that door in or you act responsibly and report it to the owner,